Hi, I'm Karen. We're here at Montevilla Sewing Center, and today we're talking about the Juki DX-2000 QVP. In this video, I'm going to show you the accessories that come with this machine. There are a lot of accessories, and they make this machine wonderfully useful. Okay, to start out with, you have this nice hard cover. Now the hard cover sits on top of the machine. Here's the handle to the machine, so you would lift this up and it protects your machine really nicely. It's also great for traveling with your machine if you need to take it to places. You've got a place to put your foot control, and you got your pocket for the knee lifter and from some of your accessory right in here. Now the foot control has this really nice wind up cord winder right here, so that way you can wind it to whatever extent you need and then just leave the rest of it wound on here, and that makes it so that the cord is out of the way. There's no excess cord. So when you put that back on here, just plug this little guy right down in there and it's all nice and secure. Easy way to do that. Okay, now the knee lifter, I want to talk to you about that a little bit. The knee lifter goes right down in here in this socket. Now I've kind of got the machine angled away from the table, but you'd have it so that when it sits in there, and I've got another couple of videos that talk about this, but you'd lift your presser foot using the knee lifter. You just push this to the side with your knee. It's a really nice hands-free feature for raising and lowering your presser foot. Okay, let's put that back there. Then we've got this little guy here. Now this is for using your large cones of thread that have a wide end to them, and that's got a lot of thread on it. It wouldn't really fit up here. So you would put this on your machine right back in there, this little bracket right there. And then if you're using that kind of thread, you use this little thread tree, put that in there and extend it fully, and that makes it so the thread from the big cone flows nice and smoothly through your machine. So that's what this extender is for. Okay, then you have a DVD that gives you some information. I'm probably going to give you a lot more information than what's on this, but it's good to watch this to see, to learn more about your machine. Then you have the book. Now, when I saw this book, I thought, whoa, that's really thick. But keep in mind, this is in 3 different languages. So you have the first third is in English, the second third is in Spanish, and the third third is in French. So really, if English is your main language, that's really all that you need to be concerned with. Okay, but it's very handy, well illustrated, and a good way to learn about your machine. Then we have the feet and the accessories. Now to start out with, there are a variety of buttonholes that you can make, and this is the foot that you would use to make your buttonholes. The book will tell about it, and I'll also try to do a video on this too. This is where you would plug it in on the side of your machine, and it makes nice, even buttonholes. Buttonholes, this is an example of some of the kinds of buttonholes that you can do on your machine. Then we have now that's for automatic buttonholes. You have for manual buttonholes, there's a way to do that. Maybe you want to do extra long buttonholes. This limits how long you can do it. But this, you can make really nice long buttonholes if you need to, using this foot. The thing about this foot is, when you make a really long buttonhole, remember, it's a big hole in your fabric. So if you have big buttons, it's probably best to use them decoratively, but there may be a use for that. Now, nice thing about this foot has a bit of a groove in the back, which is really nice for doing stitches that put a lot of thread into your fabric, and you want those stitches to just flow right through as they're being formed. So this is a good foot for doing those thick decorative stitches. Then we've got this foot here. This one is really nice for doing overcasting. Now overcasting is where you have fabric that's woven and you want to keep it from fraying on the side. If I just simply did a zigzag with a regular foot, it would kind of tend to curl up a little bit here. Using this foot and a nice wide zigzag, so I do my zigzag, make it go all the way up to 7, run the edge of my fabric right along that little guide, and you see how it leaves a little extra slack in the thread, and that helps the fabric stay nice and flat at the edge. So this is a very useful foot. That's the C foot. The next one is your blind hem foot. Now, for doing blind hem looks basically like this. It's a hem that's formed on the back, but the front you can't even see those stitches in there. This is what the blind hem foot does, is it makes a nice blind hem. And there's a stitch on here to show that. Then we've got the zipper foot. Now I don't have an example of zipper, but basically zippers, sewing zippers is you sew in a straight line. And this can be put on your machine either on the left side or on the right side. This one is a nice foot for sewing on, here, I've got an example over here. This is sort of a plasticky type of fabric, plasticized, it's like for rainwear. This will help go over that without it getting stuck on the bottom of the foot. It's got some Teflon on the back. And then this one is an edge sewing foot, and what's nice for is if you're sewing in the ditch of a seam, you can run this guide right along your seam and get a good stitch in the ditch. Another way to do that is to use your open toe foot. With open toe foot, there's nothing in the way. You can see right where that needle is going to go down into the fabric. Then, this is your quilting foot. So for doing something like this, you need accurate, even 1/4 inch seam allowances. And when you're sewing this, you would line up the edge of your fabric with the edge of the foot and see how that's right down there in the middle. That's how you get that nice 1/4 inch seam allowance for quilting. Then, for doing free motion quilting, this is the foot that you would use right here. Free motion quilting looks like this. Now, I have practiced a lot, so, and it's always good to practice and get an idea of what you want to do. But this is the foot that you would use, of course, lowering your feed dogs, and then you move your fabric around to get the designs. This is the foot. And you can adjust this for the thickness of the batting. So if you had really thick batting, you'd want to change this screw so that it would be a higher height. Okay. Then, over here, we have 3 bobbins. Now, 3 bobbins may not be enough for you. You might need to have some more bobbins. So in that case, make sure you get the same exact kind, plastic class 15 bobbins. And make sure that you're not using old bobbins that just because you have them around doesn't mean you should use them. If you have old bobbins that you have no use for, bring them here, and it's a good chance we could trade them for you, 2 of your bobbins for 1 of ours, so you could get the correct bobbin for your machine. Then you have extra needles. Now, Oregon needles are a good brand. Classe and Schmetz are also a good brand of needles. This happens to be what comes with your machine. There are different sizes here. And then you also have 1 twin needle. Now, I'm not going to take it out of the package, but this is basically what it looks like. The twin needle is, you can sew beautiful things like this using the twin needle. So you use 2 spools of thread, and then you just have your 1 bobbin thread. And I've got some good stiffener on the back of this to make sure it stays nice and flat. But that's the effects that you can get with twin needle. You have a setting on your machine for sewing with a twin needle. It is calibrated for this width of needle. There are needles that are further apart. Make sure that when you get another needle like this, that it looks just like the one you're replacing. Now, one way you can tell is this 2 here means 2 millimeters. There are 2 millimeters space between the 2 needles. Okay, over here we have the screwdriver. The screwdriver is for taking apart your machine and doing the maintenance, changing your needle, changing the foot holder. It's a great little tool. You can either use this side or this side to get change the screws. Now here, this little part here is a small screwdriver for adjusting your bobbin case. In most cases you don't need to, but you can adjust the tension of the thread tension in your bobbin case using that there. And then everybody knows what this is. This is our sewer's friend. This is the seam ripper or the seam unpicker. This is good for if you're taking out basting, but it's especially good if you're cutting buttonholes. Once you've sewn your buttonholes, you can use this to open them. I like to use it with the cover on there because that keeps it from rolling away. And then when you're done, you can just put that away like that, and it's nice and secure. Here's your cleaning brush that comes with your machine, and we have another video on how to clean the lint out from under the needle plate. Here is a really nice feature. Now this is called a walking foot, and when you put this on your machine, you'd have to take the foot holder off and put this on. This part here goes around the needle clamp screw, and when the needle goes up, this goes down. When the needle goes down, this goes up. What this does is it helps reduce the friction between the foot and the fabric, so that actually helps keep the layers together. That's especially important if you're doing something like a quilt that has a lot of batting to prevent this from happening. You want both layers to be fed along evenly. That's what this is for. This little guy here fits right back in there. Loosen that screw, tighten that back up, and now you can make parallel lines of stitching. Say if you wanted to do some nice diagonal lines of stitching on your quilt, you can use this. You make your first line of stitching, follow that to make your second line of stitching. So you can have that out there like that. And then this is the hole punch. So if you're doing a buttonhole, like one of these keyhole buttonholes, and you want to cut the end of that buttonhole, this is a great way to do it. Make sure you have a block of wood or a cutting board or something like that when you tap this, and tap it gently with a hammer. And this little hole here is like a clean out, so that if you did a lot of buttonholes here, you need to have some place for that excess that you've cut out to go. That's where it would come out there. Okay, this is an auxiliary spool pin. So we're talking about twin needle. If you have two needles, you need two spools. You would need two spool pins. Your regular one and your auxiliary spool pin right there. And that's where it fits. That's in the same place that you put your thread tree for your larger cones of thread. All right, then we have this lovely set of feet. These are for decorative stitches. Now I don't have examples for all of these, but for this one here, you'd slide a cord through there, and then you could stitch right on that cord and attach it to the fabric that way. Another nice thing about this is you can use this for like thread painting. So similar to the free motion foot, it's just a little bit flatter right here, so you can actually paint designs using thread on fabric. It's also got that adjustment screw right here to account for the thickness of the fabric. Okay, this one, if you want to do, this is a nice foot, if you want to do parallel lines of stitching, and they can be different stitches, but you would sew one line of stitching, and then you'd move this over and follow one of these lines here to do your second line of stitching. So this is nice for that. It's got a little bit higher of the middle one's a little bit higher, so you can kind of make it really nice and accurate. Now, for this one, this is a really neat foot. So here, I did it on a different machine, but those little guys there, you can put embroidery floss through there or specialty thread, and then you do your 3-step zigzag, which is, okay, it's one of the stitches up here, a 3-step zigzag to stitch these on to your fabric. It's almost like you're creating braid in the fabric as you go. And on this one, I used invisible thread, so you only see the braid itself. That's this foot here. This one, okay, that's what I did this on. I actually attached this line of beads using this foot. And I actually did this today using a zigzag, and I slowed my machine down just to make sure I did it very carefully. As I did the zigzag, it actually made the zigzag stitches go between the beads. That's how you attach. This is a bead or cord. If you had thick cord, you could also do it that way. Okay, and then this one is an applique sewing foot. I haven't really tried it out, but applique is where you're attaching one piece of fabric to another and zigzagging around the edges. This, I'm not quite sure what that's for. Probably could use that for another additional accessory that you purchase. Okay, so that is the accessories that come with your machine. There are other accessories that you can get with this machine, but that gives you a great place to start. Have fun with this machine. It's got a lot of potential. Take a look at some of my other videos, and we also have other videos on other machines here on our YouTube channel. If this video has been helpful to you, give us a thumbs up. And if you have comments or questions, you can leave those in the area down below. Thanks for watching. Bye.